This is the second part of the lesson 11-3 on multiplying polynomials. When we multiply polynomials, we're going to be using the distributive property a lot. We're also going to use our properties of exponents, like when you do x squared times x to the third, it's equal to x to the fifth. So we're going to be using that kind of an idea that we did in 11-1 and 11-2. We're also going to be writing our answers in standard form. So if your answer is not written in standard form, you will lose points for that. So some of this will be familiar because you've kind of done some of this before. So number 13 we're going to distribute. So 3x times x is 3x to the second power. That's using our exponent rules. And then 3x times 4, we're going to do plus because there's a plus sign. So that's going to be 12x. You're going to check and make sure it's in standard form. I can't combine anything because I don't have any like terms. I have the highest power first and then the next highest power, so it's in standard form, so that's my answer. Okay, number 14. Negative 2, actually, let me erase this before we move on so it's not distracting. Okay, so number 14, negative 2x to the third times 4x. So what I'm doing, and you don't necessarily have to write this down, but what I'm doing is just like a problem like what we did on 11-1. I'm multiplying those two things together. So I'm going to have negative 8x to the fourth. Then I'm going to do negative 2x to the third times 5. So negative 2x to the third times 5. So I'm going to have minus 10x to the third. Check and make sure it's in standard form. I've got fourth power, third power. So it's in standard form. So that's my answer. Okay, next one. Why don't you pause the video and try this one on yourself for just a few seconds. Okay, m times 6m is going to be 6m to the second power, and m times m to the third is going to be, we're going to write plus because that's what distribution does. So if you have a plus right there, we're going to be adding or subtracting depending on the signs. And m times m to the third is m to the fourth. If you're not sure, write it out. M times m to the third. So you can write it out if you're not sure. But don't, just say that it's m to the third or something else. That'll be wrong. Okay, now if you notice on this one, it is not in standard form because I've got m to the fourth last, and that's the highest degree, so I need to rearrange it. So it's m to the fourth plus 6m to the second power. Okay, and then number 16, this one's got a monomial, which is this piece, times a trinomial. And so that just means that in the end we're going to have more terms. So I'm going to do negative 2ab times a to the third. So that's negative 2a times a to the third is a to the fourth times b. So you see those skills that we learned in 11-1 and 11-2 are really, really important for being able to do this. Okay, next we're going to distribute to this one. So I'm drawing those arrows because it means I'm doing something. So don't draw the arrows ahead of time or anything like that. You need to draw it as you're doing something if you're going to draw them. So negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. So I can write plus and negative 8 or just minus 8 is better. A times a is a to the second. B times b to the second is b to the third. So that. Okay, and then the last thing, the last term, let me erase some of this. The last term is going to be negative 2 times 6. So again, you can write plus and negative 12, or just negative 12 is probably a better way to do that, times a times b. Okay, now since we have a's and b's in all three terms, then the alphabetical thing is not something to worry about. The only thing we have to worry about with this is we're going to wonder about what the degree is. So the degree of this one is 5. The degree of this one is 5. And the degree of this one is 2. So degree 5, it doesn't matter which one comes first then. It does matter. They're both degree 5. In order to tell which one should come first, now look at the a's. Which one has the highest power? This one has the highest, This one has the highest power of a, so that one's going to come first. So this would be in standard form. We're not going to give you very many where you have to have a couple of different variables in one term, so don't worry too much about that, but that's how you would do standard form in that. Okay, the next one, and this is where it starts to get a little bit harder. We're going to multiply a binomial times a binomial. And so we're going to use the distributive property again and again. Okay, so repeating. So watch really carefully how I do this. This is going to be a skill that's going to come up for years to come. And you're going to have to do this both this way, and then we're going to learn how to go backwards. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the first term and multiply it by the first term of the other binomial. So a times a. That's a to the second power. Then we're going to take that first term, we're going to multiply it by the second term. So see, we're distributing that through. So a times 5, so that's 5a. Remember, you write the coefficient first. Okay, now we're going to take the second term, the 3, and we're going to distribute that. So 3 times a, and then 3 times 5. Okay, now we're going to look for like terms. Do you see our like terms right there? So we're going to write a to the second power, 5a and 3a is 8a, plus 15. This is our product. This is our answer to that multiplication problem. So when you see something like a binomial times a binomial, you just use the distributive property over and over again. So let's look at number 18. The first term x, we're going to multiply that by 2x. So x times 2x is 2x to the second power. And on any of these, if you're not sure what it is, you need to write it out. Don't be afraid to write it out. Okay, and then we're going to do x times 2. And since that 2 is positive, it's just plus 2x. Okay, then we're going to take this. This is a negative 3. And so the negative has to go with it. So negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x. And then negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. So now look for your like terms. In most of these, you will have like terms in the middle there. So we're going to have 2x to the second power. Then I've got 2x take away 6x. That's negative 4x. Remember, we're not doing anything with our exponents in something like this. When you add, remember cookies. You don't do anything with the exponent. Okay, so that's our answer in standard form. So that's the product. So if you're told to find the product or you're told to multiply, that's what you do. You can't do anything else. You're not solving. There's no equal sign. So you're not going to tell me what x is. You're just going to multiply. Okay, pause the video, and I want you to try 19 and 20 and 21. Don't do 22 yet because that's kind of a special case and I need to go over that with you. So pause the video for a couple of minutes. Okay, so on number 19, you should have done x times x is x to the second power. X times 2 is 2x. This is a negative 1, so negative 1 times x is negative 1x, or negative x, and negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. So looking for like terms, I'm going to have x squared, 2x take away x. If I have 2 x's and I take away an x, I have x. Minus 2. That's my answer. So if you didn't get the right answer, you need to write down how I did it. You'll need to go back and study that again, because you have to know how to do this and be able to multiply binomials. Okay, number 20. X times x is x to the second power. X times 2, 2x. Then negative 5 times x, and negative 5 times 2. Look for your like terms. 2x take away 5x, so that's going to be minus 3x, and this is your product. Okay, 21. 2a times a is 2a to the second power. 2a times negative 3, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6, and then times a. And again, any of these, 2a times 3, you can write it separately if you need to. 2a times a. But you need to make sure you get each piece right, because if you mess up one piece, then you mess up the whole thing. 4 times a, and 4 times negative 3. Look for your like terms. Make sure you get the sign that is in front of the number that has to go with it. So I've got negative 6a plus 4a. So negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2a. So I've got 2a squared minus 2a minus 12. Okay, now I told you that number 22 is a special case. A lot of people look at something like 22 and they think, oh, that one's so easy, and then they go and get it wrong because they do it wrong. They don't understand what it means, and they don't stop and think about what you're supposed to do with that. So you need, when you see something like this, this is what we call quantity squared. And that's because you have the whole, everything that's in the parentheses is going to be squared. So when you see a quantity squared, you need to know that this one's not an easy one. So what you need to do is you're going to actually write x minus 5 times x minus 5 because that's what it means. Okay, something to the second power means that number times itself. So that's what we're going to write. You need to write it out. There's not a shortcut here. So you're going to do x times x is x to the second power. X times negative 5 is minus 5x. Negative 5 times x is also minus 5x. And negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. So your answer is going to be x squared minus 10x plus 25. People that take what I like to call the stupid shortcut, they get the x squared part and they get the 25 part, but they totally miss out on what's in the middle. And so, you know, kind of like with an Oreo, you don't want to miss out what's in the middle. You have to get that. Okay, let's try some more. Go ahead and pause the video. Try these next 4 problems. Keep in mind that number 26 is a quantity squared, so you need to write that out. Be careful with your signs. Okay, when we're done, turn the video back on and we'll see how you did. Okay, number 23. 2x times 2x, 4x to the second power. 2x times negative 3 minus 6x. 3 times 2x plus 6x. 3 times negative 3, negative 9. Okay, look for your like terms. You see them? Negative 6x plus 6x. Well, if I have negative 6 and I add 6, then I'm at nothing. I'm at 0. So what I have left is I have 4x squared minus 9. Now we'll find out later that this is what we call a special product, and so if you look for a pattern there, you'll maybe start to see like what that would look like and why those middle terms cancel out. But we'll talk more about that when we do some other things in another lesson. So number 24, 5x times negative 2x. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10, and x times x is x to the second power. 5x times 1 is 5x. Negative 4 times negative 2x is positive 8x, and negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Look for your like terms. Okay, with the types of problems we're doing, your like terms will almost always be in the middle, so that's kind of where you can look for them. Negative 10x squared, 5x and 8x is 13x, minus 4. And most of the time we're giving you stuff that's going to turn out to be in standard form if you do it in order anyway. So just give it a quick once over and see that it's in standard form and you can move on. Okay, number 25. 6x times 6x. 6 times 6 is 36. X times x is x to the second. 6x times 1. Negative 1 times 6x. And negative 1 times 1. Look for your like terms. Hey, we've got stuff canceling out in the middle. 6, take away 6. Gone. So I'm left with 36x squared minus 1. Now if you remember, this one up here was 4x squared minus 9. So some of you might be able to look at those two and see like what the pattern is. And if you can recognize that, then that's going to be helpful later on. It's called a difference of squares. Like I said, we'll talk about it later. Okay, number 26. This is a quantity squared. So we're going to write 6x plus 1 times 6x plus 1. So you're going to have 6x times 6x and 6x times 1 and 1 times 6x and 1 times 1. So notice on this one the middle terms don't cancel out. So this one I'm going to have 36x squared, and I'll still have the 1, but in the middle I have plus 12x. And so that one's different And so you need to make sure that you're making sure it looks different. Okay, so we're at the end of the lesson. So you're going to get your homework. As you go through the homework, you need to make sure that you're watching your signs, that you're paying attention to standard form, that you're being careful with your exponents. If you need to write something out, write it out. But you need to be really careful. This is a super important skill. We're going to keep going with it, and we'll start going backwards next time. So get to work on your homework.